Welcome to the Running for Real podcast, where each week we bring you a conversation designed to help you create positive change in your life, community, and planet. It's a collective of conversations about running, the climate emergency, and social justice. Running for Real is for the brave, for those with courage and vulnerability. United by our love of running, we're driving momentum towards some of the really tough challenges we're facing as humanity. So come join me, Tina Muir, and let's get started. Hello, my friends. Welcome to episode 261 of the Running for Real podcast. Thank you for joining me today. If this is your first episode, welcome to the show. We pride ourselves on being different here compared to every other running podcast in that we dive into different things. We aren't just here to cover the basic running workouts and things to eat and best shoes to wear. We love to dive deeper, going into the person behind the runner that you see. And today is no exception. If you are on episode 261 or you're a regular listener, you know that I really pride myself on thinking differently with my guests and what I can ask them about. I really love to think in a unique way. And I think today's episode is another great example of that. I think you're going to get to see a different side of my guest today that maybe you haven't seen before. So today I am excited to welcome Becs Gentry to the show. Now, you may have heard of Becs. She is one of the better known Peloton instructors. She is a UK athlete. She recently ran in the Great Britain Marathon Trials, and you're going to hear that not only did it go well, but it was a massive PR for her. And then she's also talking about, thinking about the future. She is in her mid-30s, and what does that mean? I think this is a great conversation to have, and I really appreciate the vulnerability that she showed in this episode. So I'm not going to give away any more. We're going to get to know Becs throughout this episode, but I just wanted to take a moment to thank her for that because it's made it a very special interview and I really enjoyed it and I think you will too. So we'll just take a moment to thank one of our sponsors and we'll be right to the episode with Becs Gentry. I've been traveling recently. I took my family to Austin for a week to just get away, go somewhere different and explore a new city. Do you know what I did first thing every morning? Drank my athletic greens. When I was in New York with Maria, she noticed every day I got out my athletic greens. It was always how I start my day. It's always how I start my day at home with 75 vitamins, minerals, whole food source ingredients to help fill those nutritional gaps in your diet. One scoop is going to give you the potent daily support for energy, gut health, immunity, recovery. It's NSF certified for sports, and they have an obsessive formulation that is trusted by pro athletes and health experts. Now you can get a 1-year free supply of vitamin D plus 5 free travel packs with your subscription by going to athleticgreens.com/Tina. There's a 60-day money back guarantee. And it's just great to have all the servings of everything that you need, all those supplements that you might be taking, all put in one place to look after your body for healthy aging, immune support, everyday gut health, sustained energy, improved recovery, and brain and memory support. Now, I am not kidding when I say I drink this every single day. I can't imagine my life without it. I get it for my family. I get it for my friends. I try and get as many people to connect with Athletic Greens as I can because everyone that tries it loves it. I recommend putting it in ice cold water, filling it all the way to the top of the shaker, and you can thank me later. That's all I will say. Thank you so much for Athletic Greens. Go to athleticgreens.com/Tina to go check out that special offer. Becs, thank you so much for joining me today on the Running for Real podcast. I'm excited to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me. This is going to be a very fun conversation.
Yeah, I'm excited. And although this is going to come out in a few weeks' time, today is the day I just found out that my trip to the UK is pretty much dead in the water. So I feel like this is going to be the next best thing for me, not being able to go home to talk to another British person today. So
yes,
especially another transplant who understands how it feels. So
Yeah, understands how it feels and how hard it is to get to and from the UK back to the US.
mm-hmm. However, you did do it, so I'm a little bit jealous of you that you managed it for a little while.
I did, but I got stuck. I wasn't allowed
really?
back. Yeah, yeah. There was a 2-week delay where over 2 weeks. Yeah, after the trials, that I wasn't allowed to come back.
Okay, all right. Okay, well, I'm sorry that happened to you, but that maybe gives me a tiny bit of solace that, like, if I had tried to do it, then maybe it would have been a lot of stress. So maybe I saved myself a little stress. But for you, it was well worth it because of what happened, which we're going to go to in a minute. Now, I've just said that there. You are from the UK, obvious from your accent and just saying that. You also, like me, live in the US. I would love to start. You were a runner all through quote unquote high school or secondary school, as we call it. Also played lacrosse, which, by the way, I didn't know people played lacrosse in England. I literally had never heard that until I saw that you did it.
Yeah.
And I would actually love to begin with the fact that I've talked a lot in the past about how the UK system of running is very different. And you and I may well have competed against one another, or actually, I think you might be younger than me. You're 35, right?
Yeah.
So you are a little bit older than me, but we may have competed together at the same time.
Yeah.
And you know, it's very different to the US in terms of you join a club. It's primarily through club. You work with your club. You meet in the evenings. You train. You drive yourself to races, apart from the occasional one. And then you went to university over there in the UK as well. I would love to hear, now that you've been here a while, has there ever been any part of you that wishes, oh, maybe if I'd gone to university in the US, things would have been different because it's so serious over here, and running is allowed to, if you have a sport, you're allowed to kind of thrive in it and really see what you can do.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I've had this thought a lot, especially my partner's from the US. So having him directly here and then getting to know all of my US colleagues when I first came over, when you're in the arena we're in, one of the first things that people ask, as we're in sports, is what was your discipline in college? Like, what did you run? What was your sport? It isn't so much, obviously, we had an academic background as well because we went to university or college. But if you have any interest in sport, the first thing people want to know is what you did at college. And I think in the UK, that is very rare, unless you go to somewhere like a Loughborough where you're renowned for sport, or you're an Oxford or Cambridge grad who is, that just comes with the ground in those universities. So it's really been a question in my mind for sure of, oh, if I'd have gone to university here in the US, would my running talent have been noticed earlier than 27 years old? Because I was already running, I ran forever. I did run, but I wasn't necessarily, no one really paid me attention. I was tall, I was lanky, I flailed everywhere, but I was always kind of fast, but it just wasn't, I didn't fit the bucket in the UK. And, a lot of the things I didn't do in the UK was sort of because I guess I was good at academia and sports. And in the UK, there is a lot more of a pressure. I don't know if you felt this, but to put academia first. And then if that doesn't work out, then you can fall back on X, Y, or Z. Your backup as running or tennis or whatever you want it to be. So yeah, I do often think like, wow, I wonder whether if I'd have gone to school here, would I have looked at, an Arizona-based school? Would I have looked at a Portland-based school and become a runner with a serious group of athletes earlier in my time, rather than the kind of roundabout weird way I'm doing it now?
Yeah. I mean, in many ways, I think, I'm personally a believer of things work out the way they were always meant to. So there was some reason there. And I don't know if you do know this, but I did actually go to school here. So
you did?
Yeah, I did. So I got to see that part of it. And I always wondered what it would have been like had I stayed in the UK. And I want to talk in a minute about what kind of happened when you went to university that I think didn't happen for me here because of being here. But it's very interesting. I mean, so did you have offers, or
No.
okay?
No. I mean, I was fully, my sports when I was at school were lacrosse. Tennis was my main sport when I was
Okay.
at school.
Okay.
I've never been a track girl. I can't stand running on the track. I feel like Nemo going around in circles. And I mean, that's for practice. Don't get me wrong. If there's a race and it's on the track, I'm like any other runner. I'm like, all right, let's go. Let's do this. Let's run. So
I don't know. I still don't feel like that with the 10K on the track. That is rough.
Maybe not that one. Maybe not quite that one. But yeah, I think, I didn't even contemplate going to school out here at that point in my life. It was only later on in my life when I started to dedicate more of my time and effort to sport training that I thought, oh my gosh, maybe I should look at doing a master's or something over in the US and combine the two.
Yeah, it's so interesting to think about. I mean, there's so many differences in terms of the UK system. Like, I try and explain to people that it's not like there's a huge drop off over here after university, after people finish school, because they go so intensely, and it's kind of, unless you're going pro, you're basically, people just back away off. Whereas in the UK, it's just like, I try and explain that you'd be running in a race and there'd be a 17-year-old girl and a 68-year-old woman, like, all in the race with you. And it's just, I mean, and that does happen on the road, but that would be like cross country, and that would be these little local races. And I really actually miss that a lot. But I would love to talk about like turning things around. I mean, you have admitted and said that in university you got carried away by the partying lifestyle. For me, that was more the end of school time. So age like 16 to 18, and I was trying to do both things and it wasn't really working. But coming to America, like, knocked that back out of me. And I was able to then focus and do very well. It took me a year to get my fitness back, but it came back. And so, but once you get into that lifestyle of where you are going out and spending time with friends and doing things that, typical college kids do, it's quite hard to pull yourself out of it. And especially in the UK around the time that you and I would have been going through those days of university. From what I remember, it wasn't like running as cool like it is now. Like, how did you manage to pull yourself out of that when you were like deeply entrenched in the social side of things?
I think I went through a breakup with a boyfriend. I moved into a house with four other girls in the house, and they each had their own hobbies, which they would dedicate their part of their day, not maybe every day, but part of their life to on a regular basis. And it really made me think back to what I used to do. Like, I used to play tennis 3 or 4 times a week, or I used to do this or that. And so I started thinking like, okay, what's going to help me? Okay, getting fit again. And at that point, like, I had smoked in the past and I stopped smoking by that point, but it was just like, oh God, this is terrible. I haven't done anything of any physically demanding exercise, let's say, for a long time. So I started walking to work. I lived in East London, Northeast London, like Highbury sort of way. And I was working at London Bridge. So I'd walk a really long way. It was at least an hour from home to work. End of the day, I'd walk home again. And just gradually I edged it up. And then I started running to work with a backpack on, or running home.
Can we talk about the first time you decided to do that? Was it like you were walking and you were just thinking like, I wonder if I could run this? And then one day you maybe ran a little bit and walked. Like, was it a conscious choice, or was it? It was
because I saw other people doing it. I would see all these like guys and girls running with big backpacks, like obviously with a suit in, or at least a wash bag to go and get changed, and probably their laptops. And, back then they were massive laptops. And it was, you look around you, and when you do something regularly, you absorb it in. And maybe that's a competitive side of me is always in there. Like, they can do it, I can do it. Come on. It was getting easy. I'd see that I was walking quicker, or I wasn't so winded. And I started walking to work in winter. So I also think the change of season helped me. It was becoming like spring. and it was milder, it was lighter, it felt safer to do it. And then that was it really. Like I started to do the odd runs around from Highbury out to Stoke Newington, and there's some really nice green routes to run out there. And it was, I started to add stuff on to my day here and there. And then that stayed with me. I ended up being known years later as like Forest Gentry, of always running around London, of like I would run to every single place I could get to. London's as disconnected as New York. Like it looks really connected on the tube map, but then you're like, if I want to go here, but the subways are here
and a half,
right? You got to get back into central London and then go back out that way, but it's actually a 20-minute run. So it just worked. It just that I think the motivation to make a change was very prevalent, and it just snowballed as I kept getting stronger and stronger.
And how did that correlate to the rest of your life in terms of, did that start making you think about, what you were eating and going out at night and staying, the sleep or lack of sleep you were getting? Did it start to change other areas too?
Absolutely everything. It really started to change so much about my life. I ended up leaving London and moving down to Hove to get more fresh air and kind of get away from the London partying side of things. I ended up leaving the job I was at because I was sick of commuting every day. But the key change for me was when I moved down to a smaller community, that it was the first time I found a really small, disgusting, but most brilliant gym that I've ever been to. It was spit and sawdust. And I just fell in love with the principle of going there. I was going there 6 days a week in the end, Monday through Saturday, taking a class every day or having a personal training session. I was learning to fight, to do boxing and MMA fighting, something I'd never done before, something that my dad was like, no, girls don't do that.
So did that make you more determined to do it?
So determined. And then that's when I discovered this toughness within me of like, hey, Dad, I'm doing this. And then I wasn't great at it. I have a scar on my nose to prove. But it was the fitness, the background of it. It's like any sport. It's not just all in what you see. It's what goes on behind the scenes. And the training to become a good fighter stood me in really good stead, because I had a really old-fashioned coach who was like, right, you're here at 4:30. You're going to do a 5K. Gym opens at 5. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. This was so new to me. I was like, all right, I can do that. And that's how it all started for me. So I really, the kind of the starting to walk, to run, to leaving London was a very big catalyst in change.
That's kind of amazing. And actually, there's two things that I want to ask coming out of that. One being just, for people listening, I always try and bring this back to people who are listening. If you hear, you heard there that, ran as a child, a teenager, kind of got lost along the way, managed to pull herself back. I mean, this is a perfect example of where it's okay to get lost with running. It's okay to step away. It's okay to, maybe find some other passions. Even maybe ideally they shouldn't be going out drinking for most of us, but you and I both been there, and it's okay that it is. And then you can find your way back. So I think quite often we try and just force things through and figure if we keep banging our head against the wall, keep trying, then it's going to work. But sometimes we maybe need that step away, that appreciation for what we're missing and what health and fitness brings to our life. So I wanted to highlight that. And then you've mentioned there that you've done all these different sports, all these different things. I'd love to hear your take on that. This is the David Epstein range concept of doing all kinds of different sports and things to challenge your body. How do you take that into your life now, being that running is such a focus? Do you make sure you keep other things in?
Funny you should ask me that today. I literally was, my partner and I finished a run this morning and we were walking back. And since the trials, and probably the whole time I've been in New York, I've been very dedicated on getting as strong as I can as a runner, as a distance runner, competing and work. So pretty much the only things I've done are running classes, strength classes. That's it. Or training sessions. And I mean classes just as an idea of variation of other things to do here in New York. And then since the trials and getting back and just having to have some honest conversations with myself. Like, I'm not a grandma, I'm not old, but in the grand scheme of training and the next big event, be it World Champs, Euros, or the next Olympics, I am going to be older. And I do have to have this conversation with myself of, okay, when are we going to have kids? When am I going to slow down and give my body the chance? Because I've been doing this so intensely now for so long, I'm not going to get pregnant overnight. If I do, great. But I'm pretty sure it's going to take a little bit of time for my body to come to a happy place in order to do that. Mm-hmm. And with that in mind, could I do all of that and train to potentially go to the Olympics in 3 years? So we were talking, as I wound it down and took some time to recover when we got back from London, I started doing Pilates and just slightly different forms of movement that I've always wanted to do. But I'm a big believer in, I know my body. When I'm deep in running, the only things that are good for me are running and strength. Anything else knocks me. And so I stick with it. So I started doing a lot of Pilates and I've been loving it. I feel tall and I feel calm. I'm not, my cortisol levels aren't stressed every day of the week. I started doing a bit more yoga, which I never do yoga because I am the type of runner who functions very well when my muscles are tight, not stretched out. And then this morning, my boyfriend and I were walking back through where we live and he was like, you should go down to the boxing gym. You should maybe, like, now you're starting to do other things. Maybe you should get back into that because it's still going to be high intense cardio for you, but it might bring you back some fun of, 15 years ago. Yeah. And it's really funny. I thought, like, yeah, why not? Because right now I'm not necessarily training for anything. I haven't decided whether I am going to take that bib at New York this year or not. And so I'm in a really funny point of maybe I'm just going to not do it this year and take that time to find these different things. I live in New York City. There are so many different random exercise classes I could go to. I
can only imagine.
As well as I could take the thousands of millions that we have on the Peloton platform and still be here in 3 years' time. But you know what I mean? It's really nice thought. And it's taken me this long to realize it's a nice thought. Because a year ago or 2 years pre-pandemic, that would have stressed me out. I'm like, oh, no, because I need to be ready for the next race. I might get a bib in a random race and I need to be race ready. Whereas now I'm like, okay, you know what? I might actually turn that elite bib for New York City Marathon down because I've done it. And I have nothing else to prove at that race. It was the most fabulous day ever.
Thank you to goodr for sponsoring this episode of the Running for Real podcast. You will be hard-pressed to find a day I am not wearing a pair of goodrs. I have a pair on my head right now, and I love them. I love the fact that they are $25 or $35. I have plenty of pairs all over the place, so I always have a pair within reach, usually multiple pairs within reach, because they always seem to end up out of the place you need them, right, and then piled in one space where you just happen to leave them. For me, that's my desk. They're fun, they're fashionable, they're functional and affordable. No slip, no bounce, they're polarized, they're fun. Every purchase is backed by a 1-year warranty and they have a 30-day free return. Even better, goodr is a 100% carbon neutral company and they are proud members of 1% for the Planet since 2018, as is Running for Real. If you would like to support me and this show, you can treat yourself to a pair or 2 or 3 of goodrs and by heading over to goodr.com/Tina and get 15% off your order. That's 15% off at goodr.com/Tina. Your face will thank you. You'll see some of my favorite styles from my favorite colors, and you can go get yourself a few pairs there. But go to goodr.com/Tina.
You know what? I might actually turn that elite bib for New York City Marathon down because I've done it. And I have nothing else to prove at that race. It was the most fabulous day ever.
Yeah, I hear you 1,000,000%. I know exactly what you're saying. And I mean, it takes a lot of courage to take that step, and and you haven't said no yet, but it takes a lot of courage to step back, to say, like you said, I don't need to prove anything. And again, people listening, this can apply to you. Like, just because you've got that BQ or the something that you've always wanted, it doesn't mean you immediately need to finish it and be like, all right, what's next? And everyone listening to this, I don't know what you do or don't know, Becs, knows that once I got mine, which was running for GB, in the World Champs, I tried to just jump straight back in, and I couldn't. Like, mentally, I just couldn't do it. I was like hitting a wall, and I decided to take a different direction. Not that you have to do that. You did say about kids, the question is there, but obviously that's when you're ready. But I really appreciate you bringing that up, because I think we need to have more of these conversations about, the sacrifice, even though it shouldn't be, that isn't the right word, but the decision women have to make, particularly, as you said, between that, 30 to 40 range. It all is about timing. And for the listeners, the Running Realized episode we just did on motherhood, our final episode of the season, was a really powerful one. And Bex, I know you know Knox as well. And that was a really big one. And we talked about this exact thing of the decision that women have to make, whether you're at the elite level or not, being when do kids fit in the picture. So I really appreciate your vulnerability there of sharing, as you're going through it, what you are going through. And it's not an easy one, and you'll never know if you've made the right choice until you do it. So I appreciate you sharing that there, and look forward to seeing where you do go. So let's talk about the trials a little bit here. So you ran the GB, the Great Britain and Northern Ireland marathon trials in 2021, which I'm pretty jealous, actually, that this year they did a proper trial that was not just, oh, by the way, the trials is the London Marathon. I really actually like that they did that, and I hope they continue to do that. But going into it, there was quite a lot of buzz around you with people saying it was your first race. So can we just address that first? Being you just said there that you've done New York, you finished first non-elite, but like people were really thinking that this was literally you just like showing up on the start line, never raced before. So address that first.
That was very amusing to me. And there was a couple of interviews I did where I knew the MO of the interview was sort of, this silly Peloton instructor. Who does she think she is? Does she even know how long a marathon is? Sort of vibe of like, you guys do realize that I've run a few races, one or two. And I've run a lot longer than a marathon and a lot shorter. And just because I didn't accept elite bibs for all of them doesn't mean I'm not elite standard. I've been elite standard category A or B for a while now. I just I don't run with a run group, so it is harder to be acknowledged or recognized, and I'm not first in line to be offered elite bibs because of that. I'm normal Rebecca who's out on the street who happens to run fast, so I'm lower down in the race standings.
I would say maybe now are.
Not now. But I also I'm very aware of how I perform when there's pressure with elite. And I know it's other people's opinion and you get a different start line and that's all it. But it's the internal pressure to me makes running less enjoyable. I run because I love to run. I don't run to show other people that I'm good at it. It's my pleasure. So the minute I start getting all elbowy up the front and starting to wear tiny pants running, to me, that's serious. That's really serious. So there's a lot of pressure on my shoulders. And I just know that I function better when I'm still able to wear my, okay, maybe they're 3-inch shorts now. They were 5 before, but, a vest top. My God, I ran New York in a vest. Or the other women who came over the line were basically in their underwear to me.
Wait, I just want to clarify for Americans. Vest is like just like a jersey tank.
Yeah, a running tank, a sleeveless running top, which was baggy. I mean, it wasn't even tight.
Yeah.
And it just makes me giggle. So that's so when it came to the trials, there was, as you say, a lot of hoo-ha about it being my first race, caveat, elite race. So I think it was it was funny because I never got the chance to say to people, and I have no reason to, but the start line of New York Marathon, I was the first group of people after the elite runners. Like, that was pretty elite to me. Like, there was about 3 people in front of me, and then it was the Verrazano Bridge. There was no one. And when I describe it to anyone else who's run it or anyone who sees pictures of it, like, what do you mean you could see? Like, well, of course I could see. There was no one else on the bridge. I could see like 5 people on the bridge and a helicopter, and the elite men came running past on the other side. And you see people looking at me like, are you crazy? There's normally like your sardines just
absolutely
wobbling over the bridge. So that made me laugh. But it was, yes, it was my first race of that caliber for sure. But, we've seen people, as you say, the London marathon is often the trials, and we've seen people coming from nowhere on that race and qualifying still by their times, their chip times. So I think it added a little fuel to my fire to be like, hey, I know that I've trained really hard for this race, and however many interviews there were of like, so what's your strategy? It's like, I'm not telling you. You think I'm a complete and utter amateur here. I'm not going to give you my race strategy.
Although I find that interesting that you say that about race strategy. So as in, like, what was your, and I'm not saying that there's anything wrong or right, like, what was your, when you say about strategy there, like, and maybe this was just me, but I was very like, when I would do a race and stuff, I just, I had nothing. I just was like, well, I'm doing my stuff. You can do whatever you want. But like, I just said it. Like, what was the reason for not saying?
Oh, because I didn't actually have one.
Oh, I see.
I wasn't. Yeah, I don't. I'm with you. I didn't. Had no strategy.
Oh, it wasn't like, I'm going to hang on this person and then do. Yeah.
Oh God, no. It was really that, like, I'm running with my heart. I'm running like I would run every other marathon. Run the first 16 within yourself. Last 10. It's going to be, in this case, really freaking painful, but that's what you've trained for, is the last 10 miles. And that was my strategy for sure. But yeah, I wasn't going to tell them like that, because I didn't want to be like, oh, okay.
Well, they don't want to hear that. They want to hear you say like, I'm going to sit on this person's shoulder.
I'm going to pick whoever, Steph Davis. I'm going to stay with her all the way, and then they're just going to laugh at me. But
I love that you're going into this, just not letting people manipulate you. But there must have still been, you said that you had not really done these races because it sucked the joy out. So how did you feel going into this? We can talk about during it in a minute, but like when you were in the days leading up, did you feel a lot of pressure?
Yeah, I did. It was, even the day we left, I think I turned around and stayed in my apartment, and my boyfriend had gone out the door and the door had shut, and he was calling for the elevator, and he's like, are you coming? I'm like, no, I don't think I am. No, I'm fine. I don't need to do this. It's all good. You go. Have a great time in London. I was like a yo-yo in the days before of going from complete and utter calm, peace, it's just a run, to, oh my God, like the more pressure, the more attention that it got, or I got, because of being there, the more pressure I felt. So like, oh, okay, this isn't just like, to Austin, this isn't just you and I going to like work together for a little run here. This is a lot of people paying attention all of a sudden. And then the last thing in my mind was the pressure of, wait, hold on. If I do this, then I have to go to the Olympics? Oh God. Like that's the day before when we went to Kew Gardens for the race, the route run through, the course breakdown and all of that malarkey. That's when it hit me of like, oh, okay. Looking around of like potentially 3 of us, but maybe just 1 is going to be wearing that kit for our country in Tokyo in a matter of months. And that's when it just started to process. And I think even, the foresight of, wait, if I do this, I have to keep training at this level, but harder for another few months. Oh my God, no. You just go into all these different categories of
absolutely
emotion.
So for you, was it like fear of like the people who watch your workouts, like obviously your fans, I guess, from Peloton? Was it like the media? Was it all the people who, was it just internal pressure? What were you feeling pressure from?
Yeah, it was the internal pressure, I think, of obviously everybody knew my previous personal best was 2:37.01, and I was going for a 9-minute PR on this race. And yes, I did a 12-minute PR from to New York. And, I think it was just that I had no idea how well I was running at New York. I honestly just had the best run of my life. And it felt wonderful. No word of a lie. Really, even the tough parts at the end still felt some weird form of wonderful. And I'd never had a race like that, like I remember taking a gel on at Boston at mile 24 and a half, like just to get my ass up and over that line. And you just think, oh, I really don't know how my body's going to react to this pace for this distance and this pressure. All eyes on, and also the route. It was just monotonous.
Yeah, I am not for that stuff.
This loop, this never-ending loop of hell, because one side was headwinds and the other side was a straightaway. So it was like you're just experiencing everything.
And how many miles was the loop?
3. 3K. 3K loop. So
it's 3K. I didn't realize
it was 5 miles. Yeah, I can't even remember now. 3. Wait, we did 11 loops of that, so 12 loops total. So yeah, it was probably 5. It was just no, and bendy and turny and twisty, and the back end was slightly damp with leaves on the floor and moss. Really English.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's kind of funny that like the US has probably got their route planned out like 7 years in advance, and they've set everything up and they have thought things through. And then the UK is like, let's just jumble something that will work together.
Literally, like 3 days before, they were putting wooden planks over corners to just make them a bit wider. And, they didn't end up doing that because everyone's like, we'll trip, guys.
Yeah. And then I want to dive into just quickly the fact that you said there one person could go, 3 people could go. The UK trials is not like the US trials in any sense of the word, as I'd imagine most people listening are American, in that there isn't a 1, 2, 3 across the line go. It's the winner plus, and then potentially they pick and choose for the rest of it, for the rest of the team. And sometimes Britain doesn't even take the full number of people they have the opportunity to take. And then, it's just a very different experience. I actually finished 3rd in the 10K once at the Olympic trials, and people were like, oh my God. And I was like, no. Like there's like 0 chance I'm going here, but it's hard to explain when in America it's like 1, 2, 3 and you're going. So I just wanted to explain that. And then tell us about, you ran a huge PR, as you said. You finished 4th, which was, as you said, not potentially going or knowing you weren't going, but at least you were very aware of that being a huge breakthrough race for you. So now you've had time to process it. Tell us about the moments after that, the days after that. How do you feel even now?
It was crazy. I'd never run with a pacer before, all the way. I don't think I've never actually run a marathon like with a pace group. I tend to just go by myself and find a random group of people and just run together. And so that was really funny on the start line to meet Dan and he kind of was like, all right, cool. What are you going for? I was like, what do we start? We were going to go for the 229. I think that's what our group was, or literally bang on 229.30. And I was like, okay, cool. I'm just going to commit to this. I knew what the splits were to make the 229.29. And so I was just like, okay, I know it's within me, if everything goes to plan, to run at least the 16 or so above that, and then just kind of hold on, as you do at those kind of races, for as long as you can after, and hope something makes up mathematically. And we set out, and there was 4 of us together. There were 3 or 4 on and off. Kind of Tracy Barlow came to us for a little bit and then went off. So it was 2 and 2 with the pacers, and I just stuck with Dan from the start. Dan Jarvis and I got just kind of got on. I think he got my stride very quickly. He was great at telling me when to tuck in behind him. I hate running behind people. It really annoys me. I hate just being even if I'm the slightest bit close to a part of their body, if it's not my boyfriend, I'm like, oh, don't touch me. I don't like it. Or a flailing arm or a flailing leg. I just get really scared. So how close we were running, it took me a good few laps. That was on my mind for most of those first few laps. Holy shit. I don't know whether excuse my language. I don't know whether I like this. I'm going to trip up, or I'm going to trip someone else up. And then points when the wind started to really pick up on the straight from the start through the finish line. And that was really windy. And that's unfortunately where the winds were horrible. And as we ran, it got harder and harder. And there was just a point where Dan just looked around me on one of the turns that came in towards the finish line, and he was like, for the love of God, tuck in behind me. This is my job. I was like, ooh, okay. Just tucked in right behind him. And I think that's when my trust in him was very raw of, all right, this guy's got my back. He's not my competition. Mm-hmm. And I just have to stick with him. He's going to get me through this.
Thank you to Picky Bars for sponsoring this episode of the Running For Real podcast. I have been loving my Picky Bars. I have I have a bar almost every day. I have one of the breakfast forms every day, be it the oatmeal, be it the pancakes, be it the granola. Every day Picky Bars features into my life, and I absolutely love it. It's going to give you quick energy with fruit and natural sugars deliver those carbs. It's going to give you sustained energy through nuts, seeds, and plant-based protein. It's delicious, no fillers, no artificial ingredients. There's all kinds of foodie flavors that they have come up with creative names, and they're just really fun. They are soft, they're easily chewable, so you can eat them while you are on trail runs or on the go, which I am a big fan of. And they have put a lot of time and energy into making everything fun and enjoyable. I have been a Picky Club member for a few months now, and I'm really enjoying it. And with a code Tina, you can get an additional 20% off the Picky Club, or 20% off your order of 25 plus by going to pickybars.com/Tina, and that will give you my page, my favorite items, all these special discounts, and some of the things that I have talked about today. So you can go to pickybars.com/Tina to get yourself that 20% off code to see what I and so many others are talking about. I love Picky Bars, and you will too.
And there was just a point where Dan just looked around me on one of the turns that came in towards the finish line, and he was like, for the love of God, tuck in behind me. This is my job. I was like, ooh, okay. Just tucked in right behind him. And I think that's when my trust in him was very raw of, all right, this guy's got my back. He's not my competition. Mm-hmm. And I just have to stick with him. He's going to get me through this.
Can I pause you there? Do you think any part of that is the fact that, now I'm putting old myself in this, nowhere near that now, but when you're at that kind of level where you're not quite, at the very, very top, but you're up there, But to many men, you haven't reached that level of like respect, essentially, and so a lot of men struggle with women being around them at that level because it obviously means that they are being pushed, they are being challenged, and maybe they haven't come to terms with the fact that women are around them. So I always found it really frustrating that men would constantly be trying to race me or like going ahead of me and then coming back and then going ahead of me and coming back. So did that happen to you? And do you think any of part of that was like you said about him telling you to tuck in? Like you've always had to deal with that. So it's hard. And I'm just envisioning myself here, hard to get used to a man who actually is like, let me help you. Let me do this with you.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. When it comes to any race, I think back of those sorts of situations of being early on the start line, not Boston. Boston was one of the nicest races that I've started, and men were very kind of okay, like fun competition rather than just disregarding that I was there. But yeah, I think it's generally, I liken it to the odd runs. Mainly for me in New York, it's ironically men on bikes who get really annoyed if I run past them, take over them on the West Side Highway, and then you just see them like shaking their whole body, to bike past me. I'm like, we're not even doing the same sport, and you're trying to beat me. Like, what's wrong with you? I don't care. I was just getting out of your way. It's just, so I think, there was definitely a moment of that. But I think for me, I mean, I have a very supportive boyfriend he's always there for me he wants the best for me. Mm-hmm. I think for me, it was more trusting that in the moment that it was better for me to do that and to understand, like, maybe he does have more experience than me at this, and I needed to
his hands kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly, and just to kind of trust this stranger.
So then you did that, and then
and then we stuck. I mean, Dan was going to drop at 32K, so I would have had the last 10K by myself, and quite early on, I don't know if anybody watched the race, there was a very prominent lead pack of women, and I was in the second pack. And we could see them up ahead when we were on the straightaway most laps. And I was giggling. My defense mechanism when I'm slightly nervous is to giggle a lot. And I think I was just giggling for most of the race. I'm like, oh my God, what is happening here? And Dan looked at me at one point and said, don't worry, we'll pick them off. And that to me was the most hilarious thing anyone has ever said to me. Like, just to see these 5 or 6 women who I knew, like Steph was up there. And you see Steph running, you're like, yeah, right. In my wildest dreams, I know I haven't trained that hard to get to her. But there were other people running with her that I was shocked that they were up there at the start. I was like, okay, interesting. I don't know their training. I don't know what they've been doing behind closed doors. Mm-hmm. So I was like, okay, well, let's just, we'll pick them up. Let's let you think that. We're just going to keep running. And slowly but surely, their expertise of racing came true. Mm. We stayed very steady, and we did pick people off. We picked off pretty much everybody. Other than there was only Steph ahead of me and Tasha, until Rosie came and steamed past me right at the end. But it was really, in a weird way, very, I don't want to say rewarding because that sounds disrespectful to my teammates that day, but it was invigorating at times to know that however hard I internally was holding on to that pace at the end, and the pain at the end of a race, those last mile or two when you're just everything, 98% of your psyche is saying, for the love of life, will you just stop?
Yeah.
And then that 2%'s like, not a chance, we're doing this. And it was that, it gave me a boost when I ran past somebody who I was like, whoa, I was totally expecting you to be leagues ahead of me. And it gave me that, like, don't doubt yourself. You trained really hard for this. You've been telling everybody else that, so start believing it.
Yeah.
And it worked, because I slowed down, and my splits are out there for the world to see. But I say this to a lot of people, especially people I've coached in the past. Negative splits is idealistic. It's something that, of course, coaches write in a book and want you to train for and aspire to. But there are very few, and they are at the real top of all of their game, athletes who over a distance, endurance, long distance races, perform very clear negative splits for the whole race. So I think it's just a sort of thing that you have to get out of your mind, of looking at your watch and starting to feel bad if you have gone down 2 seconds per minute per mile for your last.
Do you look at your watch when you were?
Do you know what? I don't normally when I'm racing.
I don't either, but that's why
I don't. The only annoying thing with that race was the amount of loops that there were. I saw the clock so often that I could kind of compute. But no,
you could compute. I'm impressed towards the end that I find that I'm usually like, what's half a marathon? Like, with like a mile to go, you're like, how many miles do I have left?
How many miles? Yeah, what is this? No, only at the start. Definitely not at the end. I think I asked Dan at one point twice on one lap how many more laps we have. He was like, still got two to go. So no, I was semi-delirious by the end for sure. But it was a really great experience.
Yeah, and just amazing, finishing fourth, running a 2:32, huge PR, PB. And one thing I wanted to go into a little bit there was you wrote afterwards in your post, this was a few days later, 35 years old today, and more dreams appearing in front of me. Never stop chasing your dreams. They're yours for the taking. Remember to enjoy the journey along the way, no matter how much it hurts. All of that is inspirational, but I want to actually focus on the more dreams appearing in front of me piece, because while we're told to never stop chasing your dreams, we're told to go for what you want. I think quite often with runners, we try and force things of like, this is what I want. I need to get this now. And I'm very guilty of this. Like, this is not happening. Why is this not happening? I need to try harder to make this happen, or try a new way to make this happen, instead of just allowing, like you said, dreams to appear in front of you. So talk to why you said that, and if that's always been the way you looked at things.
Yeah, I think lots of different opportunities can come from either success or failure. I'm a big believer in the word fail as an acronym for first attempt in learning, and that you get better by going back and back and back, maybe. So for me, there was a lot of chat in my mind. It was the first time I'd seen my parents in a very long time. I got to celebrate with them after the race, and it was a lot of life talk. I mean, I'd spoken to a few people on Team GB and on Team England after the race. Like, as you get congratulated by everybody, and there's the emails flying here, there, and everywhere of, you didn't make the Olympic qualifying times, but just so you know, you did make this, that, and the other. And I mean, they wanted me to go and do the 10K trials. I was like, seriously? No, absolutely not. I know I may have made the time, but I'm not throwing up. So there was a lot of options. And I think that's where the conversation in my mind and with Austin started to come from. Of, honestly, until I'd met him, I'd never really wanted children. But then at the same time, my running career took off, my work career took off. There was all of these different things that just went, "Ooh, great, everything's really good." But when are you going to settle down and do, the normal life as well, or whatever normal is? And I think with all of those emails and considerations, they are very exciting opportunities and things that I'm obviously still contemplating. But we sort of started to sit down and lay out on the table what we both wanted from a life together as well as individuals. And I think at that point I was just in this dreamland of, whoa, no matter what happens, these are all dreams coming true to me right now. And I'm not going to make any decision on anything. I was just riding it out and just seeing what appeared, what came of it, what kind of shone the brightest and drew me to it. And I'm still doing that really right now, months later.
Yeah, I love that. What would you then say to someone listening who reads something like what you wrote there and thinks, well, yeah, dreams happen for you. You know, you're fast, you're you're fit, you're healthy, you're whatever people say. Like, what would you say to them if they think, well, that's all right for you? What about, I can't look at my life that way?
I think it's very hard. I know everybody goes through their own highs, their own lows. Everybody's battling different things in life. And it is very difficult to know that the things I write as a public figure are potentially read by somebody who is going through the worst time. But I think what I want to try and inspire people to do is to look around them and find that silver lining, that source of joy. Maybe, maybe it is you've lost somebody incredibly close to you, but you look around at a memory of them and something that you could carry forward to keep them shining in your life and keep their memory alive. And it's not them focusing on the loss, but about the celebration. And I think a lot of the time it's that taking the internal dialogue that you're having with yourself. And my colleague at Peloton, Christine, is a genius at this, of helping people turn around their internal dialogue. And it's not what you say, it's what you think can affect how you are. And the more, you don't have to tell people that you feel grateful for, whoever you've lost for something, and you feel grateful for the lessons that they taught you whilst mourning them. A lot of people find it very difficult to do that, but you can tell yourself it, and you can internally just think about the greatness of that person as well as the loss of them. And it's very hard for me at times to think, I don't want to seem like it's sensitive or the permanently happy person to somebody in that situation at all. But I hope that maybe, even if they can't find anything in that present moment in their life, in what's going on of a silver lining, that something, be it my smile or something I've said, just might brighten them or lighten them for a moment, that lifts them slightly and thinks, I'm going to get to that happiness. And that's enough for me, of just, that's a positive. Yeah. People think, okay, I'm not there today, but maybe tomorrow I'm going to feel 1% of the happiness that she's just put out there. I love that. That's a win.
I love that. Yeah. And thank you. That's a really good message there. So related to that, you have also written in the past about the pressure of being judged, mileage, pace, having to always take pictures, proof that you're out there doing this. You've talked about, this was in a Runner's World article about, how that can be positive, but it can also be pretty demoralizing, even dangerous. And I'd love for you to talk to that piece as someone who is in the public eye, as you said, like a public figure. People are looking to you. People are likely copying you and seeing your life and thinking that's the picture of perfection. I wish I had that life. What would you like to remind people here?
The most common reminder I think everybody in my position should put out there is social media is a curated gallery of your life. And I know people, they know that, but I think we forget it a lot of the time. We choose to delete that video. We choose to put that filter on it. We choose what point of the day we put up. We don't put up the ugly conversations about who's cooking dinner, who's taking the dogs out, whatever, mundane stuff that really who gives a crap about. But I think the comparison is evil in every way, no matter what situation you're in. Comparison is losing your sense of authenticity to yourself. And people need to remember that the cliched saying, everybody else is taken, so be you. You have to be you, because that's what's beautiful. Individuality and authenticity are two of the strongest qualities I see in people. When I see a group of girls, for example, no disrespect to either sex here, but I see a group of 13, 14-year-old girls. I did this with my girlfriends when I was that age, wearing exactly the same outfits, with the same haircuts, the same bags. We all did it. That was safety. It was fitting in. It made you feel accepted. And I just want to say to them, like, no, be that girl over there who's walking down the street by herself, but is so fiercely strong and confident that you need to not compare yourself to your best friend because the crop top fits her better. That's not going to help you in the long run. And I think for runners specifically, I see so much burnout and overtraining and utter nonsense coming from comparisons on the various apps that are out there that log our metrics. And it comes to, I don't know why this sticks in my mind. I did a long run, and I don't remember when. It was not this cycle. I think it was when I was doing, when I just moved to New York. So within the last 3 years, I did a long run, and I stopped for a bathroom break. I'm a runner. Like, long runs, most of us, we've eaten, it needs to come out. It's just, we train for that. We get, and if you've ever talked to a distance runner, you're going to talk about bathroom breaks. It's just our life.
Yeah.
And obviously you can see on my splits where I stop my watch, like a normal person would, to go to the restroom. And one person just had to make a comment of like, oh, what happened around this time? Your splits went, like, of course. Why are you deep dive analyzing my training runs? Like, why do you think that it's necessary to try and make me feel bad or have that moment of panic when somebody's writing something negative about a run? Like, for goodness sake, I went out and moved. That is a celebration in itself. I got my butt off the sofa or away from my desk or away from kids or family, and I got out and I moved, and I gave myself something back in that day. And I just find it so demoralizing that people will use something like Strava, for example, as a place to troll other people's efforts. And it worries me so much that I almost think that the ability to comment on people's runs should be removed. Share it, great, because we all feel a sense of pride of showing other people that, yeah, I did it. Especially if you're new to running, it's fantastic to be like, yes, I've done it. I did it. I promised myself I would do an hour's run or whatever. But I think having this ability for people to just knock you on it or tell you that's not fast, and they know nothing about you. It's a pure and utter stranger who knows nothing, that you may have just had a baby or come back from a surgery or had never run more than 10 minutes in their life. So that, I do find it very toxic for that. But there are the greatness, as I just said, of people sharing things because it makes them feel great. It gives them a sense of self-pride. And I'm a huge believer that we should all have pride in any movement we do, whatever sport is your sport.
Absolutely. Yeah.
We should take pride in that. And then we shouldn't ever have to face strangers or even people who think they're your friends commenting negatively on something that you've done that's so great.
No, you're so right. And I think that, I appreciate you sharing that vulnerably with us. And that to me adds to when I was running at that elite level, I remember running through the streets of England And I remember just being in a tempo, and for some reason we had to run past, or maybe I was on a long run and I was trying to finish fast. Yeah, I think that's what it was. And I remember crossing one of the not busy streets, but it was definitely like what they call a B road.
Mm-hmm.
And I just ran across, and my husband was on the bike next to me, and he was like, "What are you doing? Like, they don't care if you're running a workout or not. Like, you need to be safe here and pay attention." I was like, "No, I can't let my splits drop." Like, I was so obsessed with not having, like you said, a blip, that I kept running in front of traffic, because I just was like, "No, I can't let my splits." And it's so, yeah, we need to get away from that, and yeah, even more so commenting. But
it's
yeah,
toxic. It's really toxic. And I think, I said it this morning. We went, my partner and I did a longer run last night, heavy heat, and we were both a bit this morning. So we just stepped out for a 20-minute shakeout before the day started to get the blood pumping. And my watch just hadn't picked up GPS. I don't know what was wrong with it. My watch was as tired as my body was, I guess. And it just didn't pick it up. And it was telling me that we were running 9:13 miles. And I joked. I was like, man, I'm going to have a lot of people unfollow me on Strava. And my boyfriend was like, hey, don't say that, because you tell other people not to care about that.
Yes.
So
glad he said that.
Yeah. And as I stopped my run and he uploaded, he just watched me. He's like, don't delete it. And I had that thought in my mind, even me today, of I wasn't running at 9:13. I don't want people to think it. Then I just thought, why do I care? Yeah. I moved. I went out. I didn't go out this morning for a run to show my Strava followers I can run.
Yeah.
I went out because my body and my mind needed it. So
exactly.
Who cares if we were running 10, 12, 6, 7 minute miles?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I
appreciate you recognizing that as well. And for anyone listening, if 9:30 is your pace, that's still fast pace for an average person. So really keep in mind the relativity here that Becs is running at the elite level. All right.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining me today. I appreciate you so much. Tell people where they can go find you. Obviously you've mentioned Peloton a few times, how they can go find you there, but where else they can go find you?
So you can find me on Instagram at Becs Gentry, and you can find my classes on the One Peloton app, or on hardware, or online. And you might catch me at some races. Who knows? But Tina, it's been such a pleasure to talk to you and to spend some time thinking about our UK pasts in collaboration with our US futures or presents. So thank you very much for the invitation to be here today.
Before we end this episode, I just want to take a moment to shout out my podcast editor, Jeremy Nessel, who has done such a wonderful job of looking after my podcast, taking out all the mishaps in the episodes, while still keeping in the vulnerability and the realness and the rawness of the conversation. This is not one of those podcasts where I take out the ums and the ers and the sometimes the delay in words, because I think it's very important to keep that authenticity. We're surrounded by perfected and manicured everything, and I think it's really important that Running for Real stays that way. So thank you to Jeremy for your work. I also want to thank Maria Vargas and Amber Moore, who are also part of my team. They've been a big part of this community and me being able to build this brand. So just want to give them a shout out too. All right, let's get right back to the end of this episode. Thank you to Becs for her honesty, her vulnerability, and just that heart she showed in that episode. I really appreciate her, and I appreciate you as a listener. Thank you for joining me today. I am loving hearing that you are enjoying these episodes, and those of you who say how you appreciate the fact that these interviews are different to other shows that you listen to. So thank you for that. I want to take a moment to thank our sponsors for today, Athletic Greens. You can get a 1-year free supply of vitamin D and 5 travel packs as a bonus by going to athleticgreens.com/Tina. That is a special offer that is available for those of you in the US, as well as many parts of Europe and also Canada. You can get that same deal all across the board there. I want to also thank Picky Bars for sponsoring this episode. You can get 20% off your order or an extra bonus percentage off if you sign up for the Picky Club by going to pickybars.com/Tina. And finally, to goodr. I want to thank goodr for sponsoring, and you can get 15% off your entire order by going to goodr.com/Tina. And that will get you 15% off your order. You can go check out some of my favorite items. And yeah, thank you so much to goodr for sponsoring this episode. I will see you on Monday for another Together Run, and have a wonderful weekend, my friends.